our final game of the night here at the ESL UK Premiership Promotional Tournament. We are here with TGR versus Gaming Emotion White, and it's all to play for. 1-1 so far in this series. If you've only just joined us, my name is Munchables, this is Vedius, and we're going to be heading straight into Champion Select.
Yes, we are, and the bans are coming out thick and fast. Annie, Nunu, Callista, Azir. Annie, we've seen a lot of bans this tournament, all directed towards TGR. There must be something there that we don't know. I don't know who the secret Annie player is.
Wilson.
Oh, is Wilson the secret Annie player?
I was talking to him between the games, and he was like, they keep banning my Annie.
I see. So he's the secret Annie player. Well, he's definitely had a good performance this tournament, but it does look like that the Gragas is going to slip through. So we see the same bans as the last game. TGR decided that they do not want to switch up their strategy, so this game they are going to let the Gragas go through. Very strong performance from Enza last game on the Gragas, and hopefully this game we don't see any more Evelynns, because I have not been impressed with the pick so far.
No, so far Evelynn has been very, very lackluster in this tournament. Bacon Sizzle Procs and Swift going to lock in the Alistair and Sivir, though. Sivir jungle, very interesting. Just kidding. You can trade in this game.
Psych.
So we are going to see that Sivir and Alistair, very, very standard, very meta. Pretty much what we're used to seeing just about every single game. But Ginseng may well be going for his Bard again.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that nothing's been mixed up. Obviously, the Sivir's now going to trade hands, but I feel that Jin is pretty decent AD carry from what we've seen so far, and I feel like giving that Sivir over isn't going to affect them that much. It does look like they're just actually going to swap AD carries for this final game, so hopefully we'll see a bit more variation. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see another Gnar. I mean, Bacon Sizzle Procs has played Gnar every game this series, and he hasn't had really a bad game. I mean, last game he did struggle a little bit, but that was largely due to the pressure applied from Chin. But then if they do pick the Gnar, then I'm sure they're just going to pick the Fizz again. So I wonder if TGR felt that they just had a bad game and that they're fine picking the same composition as they did last game. I do hope that they change the Evelynn somewhat. However, I feel it does kind of look like that they're going for a similar comp to last game, and I'm not sure if that's the best decision.
Well, opting to hover this Rengar so far. We'll see if that is going to be locked in. Obviously goes very well with the Sivir and a Malphite as well. Now, I would like to see this composition, because I'm pretty sure that this composition is rounded out with an Orianna. Orianna with this just would be perfect. There are so many different ways for you to get that shockwave into the enemy lineup and be able to pull off that massive wombo combo. And we'll see what Gaming Emotion are going to be able to do about this one, what their counter picks will be for that top lane and that jungle. Well, the jungle's already picked, and for the mid lane. So Fizz gonna be hovered over. Could be either. Could be an AP Fizz mid, or it could be that AD Fizz up in the top lane. Most likely gonna be the latter, as we've seen Chin play that previously to great effect. And Ginseng hovering on this Ahri, and we've seen Loza last game did incredibly well on that Ahri. So pretty much exactly the same lineup here for Gaming Emotion White, just with the Tristana instead of that Sivir, on the grounds that this is all locked in, of course. But I wouldn't really expect them to change. I mean, they won the last game. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's literally what I was going to say, yeah. The composition, really, there's nothing wrong with it. They can group as a 4-man unit. They have decent siege with Tristana, with the pressure coming out from Ahri's high mobility, and with the potential pick, as we saw from Enter. If there was someone slightly out of position, he was quite happy to body slam in, throw that ultimate, and knock people back into his team. So definitely nothing wrong with their composition. But this time, we do have to be a little bit worried. I mean, with the Malphite pick, it is a little bit safer against Fizz. And as well, it becomes easier to engage onto the Fizz, because unless he is incredibly quick and he has the reaction speed of a professional player, I wonder how quickly he's going to be able to dodge that unstoppable force coming out from the Malphite. So, because if that comes out of nowhere and it knocks the Fizz up with a Rengar, they're easily going to get the damage down to lock him down and pick him off. So hopefully we see a bit more pressure from Swift in the top lane, helping Bacon Sizzle Procs, because he's definitely a strong player, and if that Malphite just gets a little bit ahead in lane, he can definitely use that to his advantage. And with the Victor pickup in the middle lane, they've definitely rounded their composition off to a very strong team fight oriented composition.
They certainly have. We'll see how well they will be able to use that one as we head on to the Rift. Just opting to go for that Victor just to make sure that I don't get anything right so far this cast. Not going to go for the Orianna, but still the same kind of wombo combo style. He's going to be able to use that Chaos Storm, and if it's following up from those knockups, it's going to be able to hit multiple members and just obliterate those health bars.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned this the other day. Arguably, from my opinion, Victor is a counter to Ahri in many ways, in the sense that Ahri's high mobility can be restricted by how you use the gravity field, as you can force her to dash in certain directions based on how you place the gravity field. And, you know, because if you place it, for example, as you're running into a choke point, if you put it in the point of the choke, she then has to run through it, and she's going to CC herself up by walking through this gravity field. And he definitely has the damage to instantly one-shot Ahri if she jumps on top of him. And with the cleanse, I feel like that's a good decision, because he's going to be able to cleanse away from the possibility of a charm coming out from Ahri. And with a Rengar on top of that, there's going to be a huge amount of damage threat on that Ahri. And I feel like Victor is a better version of Orianna. This is just my personal opinion. People are entitled to disagree with me. However, I feel that
I disagree with you.
However, I feel that Victor put his gravity field makes him safer in lane. If he sees Gragas coming towards him, he just puts the gravity field on himself, right? So the moment Gragas tries to come towards him, he can just sit in the gravity field and be like, no, I'm not scared of you. I've got a little bubble of safety. And so he can use that to protect himself, and it provides him a little bit more time to help enable his team to come and save him, or it just gives him a nice disengage tool. So I feel like he's just a slightly safer choice than an Orianna is, especially against an Ahri.
Yeah, definitely true. I mean, obviously, as you say, that gravity field, having that hard CC is... I mean, Orianna doesn't have any form of CC aside from her ultimate and the slight slow on dissonance, but I wouldn't really consider that hard CC by any stretch of the imagination. But interesting compositions coming out from these guys, and could well be an action-packed game. Very excited to see what Ginseng can do on this Bard. As we said before the break, the Bard ultimates seem to be very hit or miss. When he used them correctly, they were sort of game-changing, but then we did see quite a few whiffed ultimates as well. So we'll have to see how well he's going to do with that one in this game. And incredibly strong during the lane phase last game as well. He did a really good job with that one, sort of pressuring the enemy laners. And we'll see if he can replicate that in this third game.
Yeah, and the one thing I do really like is now with the Alistar, I feel like he's gonna do well at disengaging, but not only is he good at disengaging, he's gonna have more follow-up. So the thing that we discussed in the game before was that TGR were a bit off. They weren't really in sync, as it were, because we kept talking about how they weren't any follow-up. So they'd start with an ultimate, and then a few moments later there'd be the other ultimate, and then again the final ultimate, and they weren't really on top of each other. They weren't coming together, and that shows a bit of communication breakdown. But not only that, is it just shows the lack of synergy within the team. So hopefully with this game, with more point and click ultimates, they'll be a little bit more accurate, a little bit more precise in terms of their coordination, and I'm expecting stronger team fights to come out from the side of TGR this game.
Yeah, certainly they have a very, very strong team fight composition. It's just going to be down to how well they can use it. I'm very interested to see how well Swift plays this Rengar. Rengar is definitely a champion that can go either way. You see a lot of very, very good Rengars in Europe. However, you also see a lot of very bad Rengars that kind of have no impact on the game. But when you see the good ones play it, it just completely dictates the entire game.
Yeah, a long time ago, back when I used to be a famous jungle main, no, I'm kidding. But I was horrendous at Rengar until I learned a trick from Dandy and Insec, and what they often used to do, I don't know whether or not it's as popular these days, but they used to rush mobility boots so that they could start ganking pre-6. And with lanes like Sivir that can just shove up, they would then move into the lane through the lane bushes and that would enable them with the massive mobility from the boots of mobility. They could just jump onto their target, lock them down, and easily pick up a kill. So that is another way of playing Rengar that I saw a long time ago. However, maybe Swift has his own style, maybe he has a unique way of playing that Rengar, and I look forward to seeing it this game.
It certainly would be a Swift way to go for those ganks, but so far, In Motion White seem to be the favourites here. 100% of the people who have voted have opted to go for them. You can find the vote over at esl.gg/UK something. It vanished as I was reading it, so unfortunately you'll have to find it somewhere. It'll probably be linked in Twitch chat, but anyway, you can go and throw your vote across for that one. But as we head onto Summoner's Rift for our last game of the day, let's do a quick rundown of the two lineups. On the blue side of the map, we have Gaming in Motion White. Up in the top lane, we have Chin playing his Fizz. In the jungle, we have Enza on the Gragas. In the mid lane, we have Loza playing Ari. And in the bottom lane, we have Jin Kisaragi playing Tristana and Ginseng playing Bard.
And meanwhile, on the purple side, we have TGR Esports. In the top lane, we have Bacon Sizzleprox on the Malphite. In the jungle, we have Rengar on
Rengar playing Swift.
We have Swift playing Rengar. In the middle lane, we have Wilson. Fantastic series so far coming out from him, playing the Victor. Hopefully another good performance. And meanwhile, in the bottom lane, we have 11-2 and Freudian Slip on Sivir and Alistair respectively. So looks like pretty passive starts in the early game. Nothing exciting going to happen. Meanwhile, we do see a double jungle coming out from Enza and Chen. So something I discussed at length during last week's tournament, and how I mentioned how it's a very good option when playing against the possibility of a lane swap. So they thought that lane swap might come through, decided to double jungle just in case, and now Chin's going to be able to get the level 2 tank most of the jungle, and that means that Enza can stay in the jungle for longer and save his health box. So fairly safe start from the side of GIMY.
Certainly is, and Chin going to be able to head back to base. Third time's a charm on that recall. Dealing with that last little razor beak, he's going to be able to go back to base and head up to that top lane with the level 2, using that teleport to get there. And very, very standard starts out of these teams once again. We are into the laning phase. And I mean, last game I was very impressed by the two Jins in this bottom lane. They did an incredibly good job during the lane phase. Let's see if they're going to be able to maintain that bottom lane prowess in this last game of the series. And I mean, at this point, when it's a best of 3, when you're onto the third game, it really becomes not just down to the mechanical play or the strategic play from the teams, also down to sort of their mental fortitude. As in these longer series, especially when the games are sort of 50 minutes long, it can be very, very sort of wearing for the players, and can be very difficult to keep concentrating for sort of 3 hours as they battle on through the series. And we'll see which team is going to be able to stick together properly and correctly, and who's going to be able to take control of the game. Swift going to be going for his first base already. Enza looking for something in the top lane, but he's not going to be able to find anything this early.
Yeah, as you were mentioning, like the whole mentality prospect involved in these long series is that players can think of this in many different ways, and the best way to think about it is this is a brand new game. The other games don't matter, and this is just a best of 1. Whatever happened in the last game doesn't really matter. All they need to do is concentrate on playing this game to the best of their abilities, focusing on what they need to do to win, and forgetting all of the other negatives. And alternatively, sometimes what you'll find is some players will think about the fact that if they lose this game, then they're going to be out of the Premiership. So that could be a negative way of thinking about how this series is going, and hopefully both teams have a more positive outlook on the game. Hopefully they're thinking about this as a brand new game rather than their last opportunity to get into the ESL Premiership. So we'll have to see whether or not those mentalities are affected in the way that they play.
We will have to see, and so far neither team seems to be going too aggressive. They're very well aware of the fact that this is the last game of the series. Anyone who loses here is out of the promotional tournament altogether. They are that step further away from the 275 quid. In fact, not even a step further away, they're just out of the runnings completely. So don't want to be doing anything too crazy in this early game. Nobody wants to be giving up that first blood, and I mean, there's kind of two ways to look at it for these guys. Actually, Chin going very aggressive up in this top lane, trading very heavily with Bacon Sizzleprox, but not really winning out that trade. But I mean, there's two ways to think about it. You can either be very, very safe like these guys are doing, or you can be like, okay, this is all or nothing. Let's make a play. Let's snowball this game and try and make something happen and get it all going in your favor.
As much as I'd like to say, let's just throw the kitchen sink at our opponent, that's never really what happens. Having been in many best of threes myself, I know that pretty much the entire mentality of the team is, okay, let's just concentrate and wait for them to make a mistake, and then we'll capitalize it and snowball our advantage. There's no need for us to put ourselves in a position where they can abuse our mistakes. Let's not make these risky plays. Let's just play a solid and safe game. So as much as I'd like to see them, you know, going all at it, being hyper aggressive towards one another, I just feel that that's quite unlikely.
Absolutely. Even despite their compositions, they are going to be
level 6
playing
in the
this
top.
one safe. But in the mid lane, Enza is looking for a gank. Wilson, well aware that that's coming there. He's going to go for it. Away. As you say, level 6 up in this top. Bacon Sizzleprox does have his ultimate.
He could.
Jhin only has 500 HP. It's a very squishy Fizz right there.
Decides not
Bacon Sizzleprox does not want to go for anything too crazy.
It's
and now Jhin is also level 6.
I honestly, if I was the Malphite, I would have, the moment I hit 6, I would have just gone all in. At the very least, it would have forced him back, and it would have forced the teleport out of him. And with the CS lead that he already has, I can only see advantages that he would have gained from that situation. However, decides not to go for it, decides again to play passive, as he has no vision of the Gragas. If he burns that ultimate, his escape might have been gone from the get-go, and it would have put him in an unfortunate position. So, decided to play safe, and again, this is what I was talking about earlier, decide not to throw the kitchen sink at one another, and I really wish that they get those kitchen sinks out and start throwing them, because that's what we want to see in this final game of the best of 3.
We certainly do. We want to see an action-packed game, but it's so far been very, very passive. And just across the board, both teams CSing relatively evenly. There is a 10 CS lead building up for Bacon Sizzleprox
in the top.
and in the jungle as well. In the top lane, we do see Bacon Sizzleprox managing to bully Chin away from these CS, and he's going to be able to extend that lead that I was talking about a little bit further. Chin's teleport is back available though, so he's going to be able to head back to base, grab some items, heal up a little bit. He has got that sheen now. He's going to be able to teleport back to that top lane, actually opting to walk instead. Yeah,
I was just about to say, I feel that that would be the better decision as we're moving into the the later phases of the early game of this laning phase. Dragon will be a point of contention, and by holding on to the teleport, they will be able to have more global map pressure coming out from the side of Chin. So good decision from Chin, and hopefully Bacon Sizzleprox decides to do the same. Hopefully he decides to hold on to his teleport in the event that a dragon fight does occur. So good decision making from both top laners, but again, we still have a very passive lane. Meanwhile, Rengar ultimate in the bot.
Yeah, we're going to see On the Hunt used a beautiful Tempered Fate onto 3 and the teleport coming through. We're going to see Gaming Emotion forcing this fight, and Swift taking a huge amount of damage. Is he going to go down to the bomb? No, flashes away to safety. Enza now, the focus target is Chum the Waters, lands onto Bacon Sizzleprox, but nobody going down just yet. And this might well be the end of the fight. Chin doesn't want that to happen though, as he goes in for the re-engage, taking a huge amount of damage. And both teams have to back away.
Yeah, that was a very intense fight. We do have a replay on your screen. You can see that the moment Rengar comes in, they pop On the Hunt, trying to get the engage as fast as possible, but Jhin with the clutch ultimate right at the right time. So good. Just as the Flash Pulverize was coming into play, he stops the engage, and immediately they re-engage. Luckily, Swift manages to just get out in time, and nobody dies, surprisingly, but that is largely due to the fact that 11-2 is forced out of the fight, Swift is forced out of the fight, and so their main damage dealers are not able to contribute, even after a really nice ultimate coming out from Bacon Sizzleprox. So no deaths coming out on either side, and really nice reactive TPs, and this is why it was a good decision to hold on to those teleports, because if anything happens, then they can react immediately. But this is going to work out fantastically in favor of Bacon Sizzleprox, because Chin, the lane was pushing in the favor of Bacon Sizzleprox, and he's going to lose a lot of CS. Well, he has lost a lot of minions to the tower, so a bit of a trade over the pink ward.
Chin is not winning this trade though, getting taken incredibly low. The ultimate is not going to be available though for Bacon Sizzleprox, and he's not going to flash for that one. Decides to leave it out, but Chin going to be forced back to base, doesn't have teleport. Bacon Sizzleprox should just force this under tower. He's going to miss a lot of CS. Yeah,
he's now got the Cinderhawk, so he will start shoving this lave in fairly quickly, and with the the slam,
Ground slam.
the ground slam. Oh wow, how interesting! He's decided to max his brutal strikes, which is his W. So he gets empowered auto attacks every time he does hit that little fish in the face, and it gives him basically bonus damage on each of his auto attacks, and that does scale with armor. So very interesting decision there. Normally I see ground slam being maxed from the side of Bacon Sizzleprox, but by maxing the W you can see how well he's actually been able to trade with Chin in the top lane. So interesting development. So any of those Malphite players that decide that, you know, they're keen of the champion, this is one alternative build, you know, item leveling choice that you can go for.
Yeah, absolutely. And take a look at the CS difference up in that top lane. So far, Bacon Sizzleprox has been the story of this game with 77 CS to only 46, 30 CS ahead of his lane opponent, doing absolute work on that Malphite. We'll have to see if he can continue to snowball that lead or whether it starts to fall off as Ginseng and Jin Kisagari,
who ultimate in the top.
Oh, he's going to get pulverized though. This could be a lot of trouble as Swift does use his ultimate, and that's the first blood up in the top lane. Chin finally going down. This could be disaster for Gaming Emotion as they are a little bit surrounded, but TGR deciding not to go for this one.
Yeah, that was a really nice solo kill in the top lane. Chin felt that he could actually 1v1 Bacon Sizzleprox, but Bacon Sizzleprox had another decision up in that top lane. He turned that fight around really beautifully and just straight up out damaged him. So now with the massive lead in the top lane, it doesn't look like they're going to go for a 3 versus 3 around the dragon.
Certainly are. The bowler is going to land onto Ginseng. A nice tempered fate onto 2. Is it going to be enough to keep himself alive as this Spirit Rush comes through? Loza going to be able to do a lot of damage to 11-2, but has to back away again. Swift narrowly escaping this one. 11-2 does use the spell shield, and he's going to keep himself alive as Jin has to flash over the wall. Loza now going to be the focus target. The Death Ray doing so much damage, and Ari has to flash away, and that is going to be a 2-for-1.
Yeah, that was a really nice play from the side of TGR. It did look like they engaged. So the first thing I want to note is how Freudian just goes straight into the Dragon Pit. Sorry, that is a really nice tempered fate that zones out the 2 high damage carries from the side of TGR. Gives enough time for Loza to come into the fight, but you can just see Swift sitting in the Baron Pit, forcing people to stay in there and focus the damage onto him, and that gives plenty of time for Wilson to come in, catch up, and pick himself up a double kill. So Wilson now getting a nice early lead again, like we saw in the first game, and once he has that lead, he's definitely a commanding mid laner. So I'm expecting a lot from Wilson now that he's got a lot of gold in his pocket.
Well, he's gonna have to bring something to the table, having almost all of his team's kills, has a lot of gold in his pocket. 4,400 to just the 3,900 of his lane opponent. 500 gold lead at just 13 minutes. Definitely doing a good job on that Victor, and as you say, we'll have to see if he can use that to extend the lead of TGR. They are 1,500 gold ahead of Gaming Emotion White, and we'll have to see if they can continue to make that grow or whether they're just going to fall off. But so far, 1-1 in this series, and TGR really sort of struggled to close out the first game. They managed to win in the end, but it took them a very long time. Didn't seem to know how to snowball the lead, but Bacon Sizzleprox getting in trouble here. The Orca comes up and bites him in the bottom as the explosive cast comes through, but the Unstoppable Force is going to get him away. I can't get my words out, but Bacon Sizzleprox can get out of anything.
Yeah, so this is what I was saying earlier, how Malphite is just a safer champion for the top lane, because by choosing that, the Unstoppable Force, meanwhile, a gank in the top.
Certainly is. We see Swift arriving on the scene, but he's not going to be able to get onto the enemies, and we're just going to see everyone backing away from this one, everyone playing so carefully. They do not want to be the ones making the mistakes. Just 1 to 3 on the scoreboard. No towers have been taken just yet this game, and I feel like this is going to be similar to the first game in that once it starts to kick off, it's just going to explode, and suddenly everything will be happening all over the map. But we'll have to see if that is the case, or whether this is going to be another farm fest, whether it's going to be a 50-minute battle, or whether it's going to be something that just explodes and starts to go in favor of either of these teams. Sorry. You just see Chin pushing away in that top lane, trying to catch up to CS. He's now 50 CS behind Bacon Sizzleprox, who really is doing so much work for his team this game.
Yeah, and I'm really impressed with how well the Malphite has done. I feel like Bacon Sizzlebrox has been the superior top lane throughout this entire series, and I'm really impressed with his performance. And I think that if TGR do come out victorious in this series, Bacon has to be credited for the impact that he's had. He had a fantastic game 1 on Gnar. Like, while he struggled a little bit in the second game, he did draw a lot of the pressure, and you can see this game, while they did again try to apply pressure in the top lane, he manages to get a solo kill and he manages to escape a gank. So very good performance from Bacon Sizzleprox, identifying the weaknesses from last game and adapting by picking this Malphite in the final game. So impressive performance from him. But another thing I want to briefly touch on is in terms of the mid laners, I'm a little bit disappointed that Wilson has decided to go for Boots of Lucidity into more cooldown reduction from the Morellonomicon. I mean, generally you build those, you build Boots of Lucidity to make up for the lack by not building Morello's Nomicon. I mean, what do you see? Not in the mid!
Oh, the nice unstoppable force. There's the Chaos Storm. Is it going to be enough? No, the Spirit Rush gets him away, and the teleport comes out from Chin. They're looking for more as Enza doesn't quite connect the flash knock-up. But Swift, what are you doing there? He's going to get taken out. Chin picking that one up with the Ignite. Now Enza going to be the focus target, but they decide to back away. The bottom lane's duking it out, but deciding that this is not a fight they want.
Yeah, unfortunately for Wilson, he was just unable to get the full rotation of his skills down. They do get the knock-up onto Loza, but there's just not quite enough damage. And while Swift felt like he was helping, he ended up actually just killing himself by walking straight into Chin. I know Chin is behind, but he still has damage. And bit of a wasted flash there from Swift. Gives Chin a small way back into the game by giving him that kill, and it enables them to pick up that mid lane tower by forcing Wilson back. So nice responsive gank from the side of GIM White, and now with that,
he's going to get away.
Yeah, he does just manage to get away, but they also unfortunately don't manage to pick up this bottom tower. Now with Enza there, maybe they're looking to pick up this tower for themselves.
They certainly are going to be looking to at least try and pressure Enza. Taking a tower shot there, but he's going to be able to heal himself up with that passive. And Tristana is just so good at pushing these towers as you start to head towards the mid game. Look at the damage he's able to do. Swift doing what he can, but he is going to get stunned up by Ginseng. That's going to be a second tower taken for Gaming Emotion, and they're just going through the motions of starting to push these, starting to get these sieges going as we head into the mid game. And now they're setting up for the second dragon. They managed to get the first one. They're going to be looking to try and get that extra siege damage that you get from the second dragon buff.
Yeah, that does seem that way. And now with 2 towers in their favor, it's important to note that they have a 2-tower advantage and the gold is actually even. So TGR are doing very well to maintain that healthy gold lead that they have, and it mostly comes down from the CS difference in the top lane. Meanwhile, we do see that teleport is up for Bacon Sizzle.
On the hunt is going to be used. He whiffs the Tempered Fate, though, and that could be absolutely devastating as Freudian Slip goes in. Ginseng going to be using that magical journey to try and escape. Chaos Storm doing so much damage. Who's going to get the dragon, though? It's taken incredibly low. It does go over to Swift, though, in the end. Orb of Deception chunking out these members, but there is going to be 1-for-1 in dragons and no kills taken.
Ooh, is Bacon Sizzlebot's going to go for a dive in the top lane?
I hope so.
I also hope so. But yeah, just to break down on that dragon fight, we saw that while GIM did start the dragon fight, the ultimate coming out from 11-2 and the ultimate from Rengar really scared them away from the dragon. It forced them to the back of the pit and they had to disengage. Unfortunately for TGR, they were unable to pick up any kills, but they do get themselves the Drake. But because they were so low after that fight and with all of their abilities down, it leaves their middle tier 2 completely open, and GIM responds very quickly and take that for themselves. So nice pickup for GIM. While losing the dragon, they do pick up an objective of their own.
Yeah, they certainly did, and very well played to them to be able to grab that objective. And that's the second time we've seen them, off the back of a very even fight, manage to take something extra. And that's kind of the sign of a good team, being able to find those extra objectives that other teams wouldn't have foreseen. And that's going to make sure that that gold is just about even, despite the massive CS discrepancy up in this top lane. Bacon Sizzleprox doing his very best to try and carry his team to victory, but it's going very, very evenly so far across the board. We see a lot of members up in this top lane for TGR, but Swift going to be heading back to base, and they decide that this is not a fight that they're looking for.
Yeah, they really need to start pushing towards getting these other towers that are on the map. Meanwhile, ult does go down from Chin.
Oh, Bacon Scissor Procs could be in trouble. This is going to be the magical journey from everybody else on the team as Unstoppable Force is used. Can they chase through on this one? No, the flash comes out as well. Bacon Scissor Procs going to get to safety. This is going to be the top lane tower for Gaming Emotion, but in the meantime, 11-2 heading towards this mid lane tower.
Yeah, they are going to lose that top tower though, and I'm not even sure if they can pick themselves up this mid tower. Bacon Sizzle Procs, ooh, that's a clutch back, but he does manage to get away. Meanwhile, Swift is doing his red buff. I'm not sure why he's decided to do this. Charm does land onto Wilson.
Chaos Storm is not going to be enough yet. Again, the Spirit Rush going to be able to get him out of range of that one, but a tier 2 tower now being pressed up in this top lane. Bacon Sizzle Procs has arrived, and Swift has used his ultimate. Thrill of the Hunt is going to come through. A nice explosive cast knocks away the Rengar. It's going to deny the re-engage from these guys, but the rest of the team is on the way. On the Hunt has been used by this Sivir. Freudian Slip going to be looking for the headbutt. Pulverize. Is he going to be able to find his target? Looks like he will. Oh! Beautiful combo into the twist, into the Tempered Fate. Absolutely beautiful play, but it's not going to make a difference as they go underneath the tower. Freudian Slip happy to tank this one up with that Unbreakable Will. Enza going to be the focus target. Can they finish this one off? Doesn't look like it as he flashes away. And that is going to be another kill in the hands of TGR, and they have to back away from this one now.
Well, we're definitely going to get a replay up on your screen of that beautiful play. I mean, you can see here that the knockback into Tempered Fate, so good. I was talking about the lack of synergy potentially from TGR, but the synergy between that bot lane of GIM is just absolutely beautiful. I mean, that play was probably the most impressive of the tournament so far. I mean, so well played. Obviously, he does lose his life, but the fact that he did with so much style and swag, I feel that it's an acceptable death. So, very well played from GM. Obviously, they do lose a tower, and they do lose a kill, so advantage gained for the side of TGR. They do extend their goal lead a little bit, and now they're closer on towers. So, all of the outer towers down now for the side of GIM, and the moment they get the tier 2 tower, they're going to equalize. So, good play by both teams, really. I'm very impressed by how well they're rotating and how, meanwhile, Loza ultimates in the mid.
Yeah, he uses that Spirit Rush, but to little avail. He's not going to be able to get onto anyone. Does still have one charm, but one stack of it, but decides that he doesn't want to use that too aggressively, and is going to back away from this one. Is actually going to just head back to base. And again, we go back to this stalemate as we head further into the mid-game. 22 minutes in now. 2-4 on the scoreboard, and just a 2,000 gold lead for TGR right now. It's still anyone's game at this point, and the Dragon is going to be spawning in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Both of these teams can definitely look to try and take this objective. It's 1-1 on the board so far. We'll see if Wilson is going to be able to get one of these Chaos Storms off that can turn the tide of battle. So far, the Chaos Storms haven't really had this same kind of effect as the Shockwaves have previously in this series. He's been able to land them onto 1 or 2 targets, but they've not really been able to secure those kills. And we'll see if he's going to be able to change that and whether he's going to be able to force something out. But Ginseng could be in trouble here. Swift going very aggressive, but he may be the one getting caught out himself as the stun comes across. Look at the damage coming out from Jin Kisaragi, and now he moves onto Freudian Swift, but the Unbreakable Will is going to make him so hard to kill, but he's got nowhere to go. Flashed into the pit, and the rest of the team is here. They're going to be able to finish him off. Chin takes that kill, and that is going to guarantee them the next dragon. Is still 30 seconds away, though. They could maybe look for a different objective. All of the ultimates missing.
Yeah, so Swift thought he'd caught out the enemy team, however they had actually caught him out. You can see that while he's in the river, the rest of the team is collapsing in behind him. He gets a beautiful binding from Ginseng to pick up that kill, and while Freudian Slip thought he'd flashed to safety, he'd actually just flashed to his death. By flashing into the pit, he had absolutely no means of escape, and they just give away 2 free kills and very likely the dragon as well. So, bit of a poor decision making from the side of TGR. Give over this dragon, which means that now Gaming Emotion White close that gap lead a little bit and are going to get the second break of the game.
Certainly are, and they all vamoose through that magical journey, get to safety. Swift did use Thrill of the Hunt there, but he's not going to be able to find his target. Looking for the bowler, but it's not going to connect. And now TGR head towards this mid lane tier 2 tower. They're wanting to get their siege on. maybe looking to try and pull off a bit of a wombo combo. We'll see if they're going to be able to get anything. If they can get the Unstoppable Force with that Chaos Storm on top of it, the damage is going to be ridiculous. But again, with this Sivir, it's so hard for them to properly siege.
Yeah, that's definitely true. They don't really have much of a split push threat either. I mean, obviously they do want a team fight, and hanging around a tower like that is not the best way to draw a team fight. They need to be hanging around objectives and draw JM away from these towers. So they should really be looking to gain vision around Baron, trying to draw JM towards that Baron. And even though they can't take it themselves, just by drawing JM away from the towers and into an open area such as the Baron River, then that is a much better situation for TGR to start that fight. So with the slight gold lead that they have, they're definitely in a good position to start the team fight. They might want to wait a little bit for Wilson to complete his death cap, because that's going to be a massive power spike with that item completed, as well as the Phantom Dancer possibly from Sivir. So perhaps that's what they're waiting for before they look for these team fights. But we will have to see what they decide to do. They have looked like they're going to disengage and not go for any more sieging.
Yeah, so both teams just going back to this farm fest and just trying to make sure that they don't fall too far behind the other. I really feel like either team can take this if they just take the driver's seat, just take initiative in this game and force the enemy to react to them. If they can pull off a good play, it could just snowball so quickly in their favor with how close this game has been so far. We know both of these teams are capable of doing so. They've both won a game so far this series. But it's down to whether or not they're going to be confident enough to go for that kind of play, to make sure and like sort of secure themselves a win, or whether they're just going to try and wait for the enemy to make those mistakes. But when you're both playing this passive, it's kind of hard to make mistakes.
Yeah, well, you can see. Oh, meanwhile, Bola lands.
Oh, here's the mistake I was talking about. But the magical journey is going to pull him to safety. Nobody being confident enough to follow him through there. Ginseng going to be able to stroll away from that one on the Bard.
But he is low now, which means that they can ascertain vision around the Baron with Jin Kisaragi not there. Ooh, ultimate from Rengar. Oh!
Jin Kisaragi is going to be able to jump to safety, unfortunately, though. Well, fortunately for him, fortunately for Gaming Emotion, but unfortunately for me, because I want to cast some action as Enza enters the fray in this middle lane. He's going to get caught up by the binding. A nice explosive cast scatters the TGR lineup, but they're going to be able to walk away with this objective basically for free right now, unless Loza has something to say about it. Not going to use that Spirit Rush, though, and just going to allow them to back away.
Yeah, that will give them a free middle tower now. Perhaps they should have fought a little bit sooner when they had the tower to help pick up a fight. I mean, you saw Bacon Sizzlebrox just tank that tower like it was nothing. He's got so much armor on himself right now, and with the ultimate down from Swift, that was definitely a good opportunity for them to start a fight, but looks like they didn't quite get the fight that they wanted. A little bit unfortunate, but Swift does go on to Ginseng.
He does indeed, but he's not going to be able to find the fight as Bacon Sizzleprox is in a 1v3 right now. He's going to be using that Unstoppable Force, and he does it over the wall. Beautiful play to get to safety. That's going to deny the kill in the top lane. However, this tower might go down regardless. There is a massive minion wave pushing in here. Tempered Fate onto 11-2 is going to deny a lot of the wave clear, and the tower is going to go down. Is there going to be a fight though? Freudian Slip is going to be the first one to fall. A nice Chaos Storm dealing a lot of damage, but can they protect 11-2 as Chin jumps in? He's going to be able to escape as Loza uses that Spirit Rush so aggressively, but he can't finish off any of these kills. All of the health bars are blinking, but nobody going down aside from Freudian Slip. Or are they? Wilson flashes forward with the Death Ray, picks up one. Swift is looking for more as the magical journey is going to get Gaming Emotion to safety. Look how low everybody is. Wilson is more than happy to chase this, but the Cosmic Binding is going to deny all charges. But now Swift is going to look for the bowler. He connects it, and Ginseng is going to be going down. Swift with the solo kill there, and that is going to be TGR taking an advantage.
So you can see that all starts with the Tempered Fate coming out from Ginseng. He locks down the primary wave clear from Sivir in the boomerang, coming out from the boomerang, but Freudian Slip doesn't pop his ultimate for some reason. He's so low and decides not to use it, but a really nice Chaos Storm chucks a large amount of damage down onto the rest of the team, but Bacon Sizzlebrox just sitting at the front, tanking as much as he possibly can, and because there's no real target focus from the side of Gaming in Motion, they decide that they have to disengage at this point, and now they're just running away. But TGR Wilson with such an aggressive flash, and he almost picks up the double kill, slightly unable to. Now, at this point, GIM White think they can get away. Really nice binding coming out from Jinsang, basically secures their path to safety. But with the mobility boots onto Swift, he can quickly chase it down, and he grits a really nice bowler onto Jinsang. This enables them to pick up the kill, and they end up trading a 2-for-1 overall. But that's not all. Thanks to that, they're able to pick up the Baron buff as well, escalating their gold lead now to a 3,000 gold lead. And as the Drake is just about to spawn, that's probably going to be their next objective.
It certainly should be 15 seconds until that dragon is on the map, and TGR looking to play St. George and slay the beast. But Gaming Emotion are going to have something to say about this, as they're all milling around this area, but they're not in a great position to contest it just yet. Now they're pushing forwards, and immediately the Tempered Fate comes through. It's actually going to deny the Chum the Water, though, as Wilson gets aggressed upon. He's going to be taken so low, but he's still alive. Throws out the Death Ray, and that's a double kill for him. And this is going so well for TGR. Loza, the last man remaining, doesn't have any stacks left of his Spirit Rush, and that is going to guarantee the Baron, the Dragon, sorry, for TGR. And Bacon Sizzleprox is not done. He's looking for more. He's looking for Loza. Not quite going to be able to find that one, though. And that is going to be TGR. Super happy with that one.
What a crazy team fight. Initially, they go in with the fish, and you see the Tempered Fate. It actually saves him, as you mentioned. Like, he just the fish does no damage to Wilson, which is a great target to land on. They think they've locked him down, but the Pulverize from Freudian Slip keeps him alive just long enough for him to be able to drop his entire combo down. And that explosive cask actually takes him to safety, because it throws him right next to Bard, who doesn't have the damage to finish him off. Meanwhile, the ultimate from Bacon Sizzle Procs knocks up so many of the team that 11-2 is just free to deal massive amounts of damage on the back line. Such a great team fight from the side of TGR, being able to keep Wilson alive long enough for him to get all of his damage down. And with his build, the amount of damage that he's currently throwing out is so big that you can see how impactful he is during these team fights. So really well played from TGR, and that's going to extend their gold lead now to 6,000 gold.
It certainly is, and with that Baron buff as well, we'll see if there's anything that they can do across the map. Baron is not long left, though, and I really feel like they could have been much more effective with this Baron. Obviously, they picked up the Dragon, but the Baron buff was completely irrelevant in that. It was a team fight, and Baron doesn't give you anything that's relevant to team fighting. I feel like they could have been more aggressive and maybe just traded that Dragon for a couple of towers somewhere.
Well, while that is true, the Baron buff still does give you a little bit of boost for your AP and your attack damage, so it is a nice little buff in terms of your team fighting. But you are right, it might not be the best use of the Baron, and the fact that GIM only lost a Dragon as a result of the enemy team getting the Baron is one of the better sort of options, you know.
Enza in a lot of trouble. He's going to be able to get a really nice body slam over that wall now. Pulls himself to safety, and TGR in the first weekend, obviously only across one game, only managed to get 40% kill participation as an average across the board. But so far today, they've been a much more cohesive team, and
they've
been working together so much better. But Freudian Slip in a lot of trouble. Swift jumps in, but he's taking huge amounts of damage. A beautiful Tempered Fate is going to deny the re-engage from Wilson and Freudian Slip, but nobody goes down just yet. Enza now having to body slam away. Another beautiful Cosmic Binding, and this is going to be the re-engage. Or is it? Chaos Storm doesn't land onto anyone. And look at the damage bouncing across, but nobody willing to commit.
Unstoppable Force is still available, but it does look like they're going to disengage from that fight. It was a pretty messy engage coming out from Rengar. Initially, it looked like he'd caught someone out of position, but he ends up getting thrown back into the team. This all starts with Freudian Slip. They do put the gravity field down to try and protect him, but ends up being Swift completely out of position at this point. He just manages to survive by smiting the Krugs. Really well played by Swift. That was a brilliant decision making at that point. And with the teleport coming in, I feel like they should have immediately committed onto Wilson. He completely whiffed his ultimate, meaning a massive amount of damage is missing now on the side of TGR, but they decide not to chase anymore, and nobody dies in that fight. So very close fights from both teams. A lot of summoners being burnt. Actually, very few summoners being burnt, because a lot are actually still available from both sides. So we'll have to see how the next team fight goes, because these are very close. I mean, initially I thought the TGR were winning them hands down, but now it seems that if one skill, two skill just slightly miss, then it can swing in the other team's favor.
Absolutely, and we see Baron is going to be spawning in just 1 minute and 50 seconds. Vision control currently in the hands of TGR, but they still have just over a minute and a half for Gaming Emotion to come and try and contest for that vision. Chin in a little bit of trouble here. 4 members up in this top lane for TGR. In the meantime, Gaming Emotion going to be pushing down in that bottom lane, but this top lane tier 2 tower already dropped. And honestly, I don't think the Gaming Emotion can push at the same speed right now. They're going to be going down for this bottom lane tier 2. They've only just finished the tier 2 though, as we see TGR pushing in towards this inhibitor tower, and 11-2 is going to be able to do a lot of siege damage.
Push them off though.
They're going to be backed. They're going to have to back away from this one. Enza going for the stun. He's not quite going to connect it. And in the meantime, this inhibitor tower has gone down in the bottom lane. Gaming Emotion White are looking to try and get back into this game as Wilson gets shut down by Loza. Does get stunned up by the gravity field, but it's not enough as the inhibitor goes down.
And
in the meantime, Enza doing what he can to try and deny this. Chin and Enza both
going
down. But this could well be the end of the game as they push in towards the Nexus towers. There's only 3 of them there though, and the rest of the team has gone back from the base now, and this could be a lot of trouble for Gaming Emotion. A really nice tempered fate as Ginseng trying to escape the cosmic binding, get a stun too, a nice over deception, but that's going to be on the hunt. Ginseng is unfortunately for him going to be going down, but it's an inhibitor for just 3 kills, and really, really bad trade for TGR.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the hell happened there. I mean, what a strange decision making from the side of TGR. It was a 4 versus 2 in the top lane. They could have just died. They definitely had the armor from the side of Bacon Sizzleprox to take away that tower. I mean, you can see this beautiful play from Loza. He goes straight in, and even through the cleanse, he has so much damage available to him thanks to the Lichbane build, something we haven't actually talked about yet. But meanwhile, they do get this extra tower in the they get one of the Nexus towers, and they do manage to disengage thanks to a beautiful ultimate coming out from Ginseng that we will see in a little bit. But while all this is happening, we do see a Baron fight going on.
We do indeed. Freudian slip already going to be going down, and now Swift is going to be the focus target. Chin trying to do what he can as Ari enters the fray. Loza doing so much damage. That's going to be 3 members down already. Wilson going to fall as well. That's going to be the double kill coming through for Jin. And that should be the Baron for sure. Gaming Emotion are suddenly on top of this game. They haven't closed out the gold gap, but it just doesn't seem to matter as they head towards this Baron. They could maybe start to head towards the end of the game.
Yeah, well, it all stems from this poor decision making from the side of TGR. They've just given away another free Baron, which is what they did in their first game. They had the lead, they were in a great position to be able to close out this game, and they end up just losing another Baron. I mean, the decision making from TGR is just questionable. You can see that this team is not experienced in this late game phase of the game. They just don't know how to respond to an enemy's aggression, and the reactiveness is not as quick and crisp as it should be from this fantastic early game that they've always had. I mean, it's a little bit disappointing. They had so many options available to them. They could have forced that top inhib. They could have just immediately backed away and prevented losing the bottom inhib, but repeated mistakes over and over are gonna cost them the game if they don't, you know, think on their feet a little bit.
Pull it together.
Yeah, pull it together. That's exactly it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gaming Emotion finally looking to get into this game. It's certainly all to play for still, though, for TGR. Just one good team fight will turn this on its head. Chin looking for some aggression, though, as they head towards this mid lane. Yeah, you're right. Bacon Prox is up in the top lane, does have the teleport. Look at the damage onto Freudian slip there from Chin. Going to be able to chunk out that support. Swift trying to land that bowler. He's not quite going to be able to find it. Freudian slip has to back away. That's an inhibitor tower going down, shortly followed by this inhibitor by the looks of things, or not, as the fight is going to start. Swift jumps in. There's a beautiful Chaos Storm, and this is the fight that TGR have been looking for. Enza now on this front line is going to be slowed down. A beautiful Cosmic Binding. There's the magical journey to pull himself to safety, and they only managed to get 1 kill, but they do save the inhibitor.
Yeah, that was such a nice engage. You saw that he interrupted the Tristana jump coming out from Jin Kisaragi. It was so, so good. We should get a replay up on your screen in a little bit while they clear out all the minions sieging in the bottom tower. But as you can see here, beautiful flank. And just as he jumped, he manages to interrupt the jump from Jin Kurosaki on Tristana. But that tempered fate is what stopped them from picking up any more kills. I cannot hype up how well Ginseng is playing this bard this game. With the beautiful Cosmic Binding, with the beautiful tempered fate, he only loses one teammate in that fight. Really nice disengage ultimate. If anyone wants to know how to play bard, this is how you do it. He might not have had the best early game, but this is such an effective use of his ultimate in these team fights. Really well played by him to only lose one member in that team fight.
Absolutely, and we'll see if they can continue to fend off this push coming out from Gaming Emotion. Baron still on a couple of members. It's not got too much longer left though, so Gaming Emotion need to do something with it almost immediately. Tristana, however, is not here yet. They need to wait for him to get back up this mid lane. And this inhibitor is exposed. Super minions are pushing out in the bottom lane, but Swift is going to be coming through. On the thrilling hunt is going to be used. Enza gets caught by the bowler, but Bacon Sizzle Procs doesn't land onto anyone. A beautiful Spirit Rush from Loza, and now the fight really kicks off. 11-2 goes down already. Enza now going to be on this front line, trying to do what he can, but Loza taking so much damage from the Chaos Storm. He's going to live, though, yet again, and now Freudian Slip trying to escape. The Tempered Fate doesn't land onto anyone, as Enza has to flash out of this fight. Loza picks up the kill on the backline. Actually, it was Tristana that managed to get it in the end, and it's a 3-for-1 in favor of Gaming Emotion. They're pushing up this mid lane. This could be potentially game. 40 seconds on the death timers right now. There's already super minions pushing in onto this Nexus. It's down to Bacon and Wilson. Can they defend this one? They're looking for it. Wilson manages to get the laser onto this Tristana, and it looks like Gaming Emotion aren't going to try and end, but they are going to secure themselves this last inhibitor tower. One tower remaining on the entire map right now for TGR, and this is looking so scary for them.
Yeah, we can see this fight initially starts off by Swift, and they have no one else to engage on other than Enza because he's right at the front. And this ultimate, such a nice dash from Loza, managing to juke out from Prox. But I don't even think that focusing Loza in that point was the best decision available to them. But the moment that ultimate is gone, they just completely ignore Bacon Sizzle Prox. He's not even slightly a threat because his ultimate is down. That leaves 11-2 completely exposed. And you see, while Wilson at the back is trying to do as much as he can, he just cannot kill all these members. And they got out so low. You can see how Enza just escaped with the smallest amount of HP, and the same for Loza. They're just so low, and it's just such a clutch fight. And now with only their mid inhibitor down, they do have their bot inhibitor back, but all three inhibitors are now exposed. So these fights are just getting more and more tense. They do have the gold lead, and with the dragon coming up in 2 minutes, maybe that'll be their point of contention, or maybe they'll just stay in the base. There is the massive risk of Fizz going in for the back door, taking away one of those inhibitors that are completely exposed to the world. And it's such a close game.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gaming Emotion heading towards this bottom lane inhibitor. It's already incredibly low. The minions did a lot of damage to it. They just need a few auto attacks, but Bacon Sizzle Procs isn't going to allow that to happen. He's looking for the engage, but the Spirit Rush coming out. Ginseng may well be going down, but he flashes away. A beautiful knockup from Freudian Slip. Jin is in a lot of trouble. Is he going to go down, though? Doesn't look like it, as Freudian Slip is trying to tank up the entire team. He's very tanky, but he finally goes down. A Chaos Storm trades the kill back, though, as Ginseng jumps across the wall with that magical journey, but the entire team is going to follow. Enza now trying to do what he can. He's very tanky, but is he tanky enough? Doesn't look like it, as he's going to be dropped. That kill comes across to the Sivir, and that is going to be a 2-for-1. And again, these fights just so close.
Loza. Yeah, we are going to get a replay up on your screen, and this Tempered Fate, again, completely stops the follow-up engage, but this is what's really important. Freudian Slip actually uses his ultimate for a change, and he stays at the front line. 2 versus 4 in this fight. They're both just so tanky that the side from GIM cannot get through them, and that gives plenty of time for Wilson to catch up. He just drops the Jin Kurosaki on that Tristana, and at this point it's just cleanup. They chase them away, and they manage to pick up a kill onto Erza because he cannot escape. So another great fight. Again, so close. It's going one way, it's going the other way, and they do manage to defend enough time there. Inhib is halfway through. It should respawn within the next 2 minutes, and Drake is going to be up. I do wonder whether or not they're going to be able to contest it. Bacon does have his teleport. He does have his ultimate available, and at this point, TGR Wilson is full build. His Zhonya's is completed. I really want him to sell that Morella Nomicon in favor of a Void Staff, because at this point in the game, that Void Staff is so important to hit through those tanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the reason you get a Morello is mostly for the CDR, right? And at this stage, his ultimate isn't that big of a cooldown anymore. And between fights, it's going to be able to come up without that extra 20%.
Ooh.
That's going to be the Dragon going down
On
as
the
Chin
hunt.
could be in trouble. A nice Chum the Waters is going to deny the engage. Though, but Bacon Sizzleprox comes straight in. Chin in a lot of trouble. A beautiful Tempered Fate, but it doesn't go on to 11-2 as he spell shields it. Ginseng getting a nice double stun. But it's not enough to save the fish. Chin is going to be going down, and this is going to be the Baron for TGR. And just as we thought that GIM were coming back into this game,
They're
we
just pushing
see
down
them
mid.
pushing in towards this Baron. Well, as you say, they are pushing down mid. Gaming Emotion are looking to try and end the game, and they might well be able to do it if there's no reaction coming out. But in fact, they're not going to go for it. They're just going to go for this inhibitor.
Enhanced recalls.
Can they get it, though? That's the question. Bacon Sizzleprox doing what he can. If they're going to go for it, they need to go now. But it looks like they're going to back away, and unfortunately for them, Gaming Emotion are not going to be able to pull anything out of this situation.
Yeah, really well played by TGR though, as they recognize that they're going to lose the Drake, so they give it up, so they head straight over to the Baron, and just look at that fantastic vision hanging around the Baron. There are so many wards down, coming out from the double sight stone, and from the two trinkets coming out from Wilson, and Bacon Sizzleprox enables them to give full vision around that Baron pit. So that was their aim all along, and by doing that, they managed to catch out Chin. They have to burn a few ultimates to get it, but by picking that up, they managed to pick up the Baron, and thanks to the enhanced recalls, they're able to get back in time to be able to defend their base, and they don't lose anything. And now they're going to start pushing onto GIM's base.
Oh, Enza could be in trouble here. Does get caught by the bowler, but he's going to be able to walk away from this one. But now the shoe is on the other foot as TGR are the ones starting to siege, and they're heading towards this inhibitor tower. There is no inhibitors down left for
That's
GIM.
2 disengage down.
They're running out of ultimates here. They have, as you say, used 2 of their disengages, only having the Spirit Rush, Chum the Waters, and Tempered Fate left.
Rengar ult.
And Rengar ult is going to be used. That's going to be on the thrilling hunt as Ginseng is on the front line. Loza, though, gets caught up. He's going to be going down, but the Tempered Fate onto 1. Is it going to be enough? Enza now trying to tank up the enemy team, but Bacon Sizzleprox, is he going to be falling? No, he's going to be able to finally go down. There's the shutdown gold. Enza, the beautiful Chaos Storm, does so much damage, finishes off that Ari, and it's a 2-for-1 so far in favor of Gaming Emotion.
They can still push.
Can they do anything with this, though? Can they defend this inhibitor tower? 11-2 is still around. Getting a couple of autos onto this tower. Swift pushing forward very aggressively, and they take the inhibitor tower. But this could be the counter coming through from Gaming Emotion. Enza gets the slowdown with the barrel, and that's another kill. It turns it into a 3-for-1 in favor of Gaming Emotion, but they lose the tower.
Yeah, what a tense fight there. I was thinking in the back of my mind, don't dive, don't dive, don't dive, don't dive. And what do? They dive. Because of how good Jensing's ult has been all game. I knew that if they decided to dive, that he was going to place his ultimate in a prime spot to prevent the carries from TGR to be able to follow up. They locked down the tower as well as Wilson, and we both know how much damage Wilson can put out. If that ultimate from Jensing hadn't come out, Ari would have been insta-popped, and they might have lost that fight. But such an impressive play from Jensen to keep them in the game. Meanwhile, a lot of damage coming onto Chin.
11-2 doing what he can, but he's going to get knocked away by that explosive cask. But in the meantime, we see Tristana taking away that top lane inhibitor. And now, suddenly, everyone goes to react to Tristana. Chin comes in towards the bottom lane inhibitor. All over the map, GIM, or all over the base at least, GIM are pressuring onto these inhibs. And despite losing that tower, they end up trading it for 2 inhibitors. And maybe this is game for TGR. 2 inhibitors, a lot of pressure going to be coming through from those super minions. Can Gaming Emotion close it out, though? The pause is going to come through. No! We're going to have to wait and see what happens. We do have one of the league clients has crashed, but we'll see. Andy's probably going to take a quick drink of water as we swap over to the caster cam. But this game is on a knife edge. I feel like Gaming Emotion finally have a bit of an edge here with those 2 inhibitors down. Maybe, just maybe, they can clinch this series.
I
but it
doubt
has
it.
been so close, this series.
Yeah, it's been ridiculously close. Like, the thing is, I want to say that teams have been screwing up, but I really don't think that they have. I feel like both teams have actually been playing the team fights fairly well. I feel like when for example, when we saw in the middle lane, Bacon Sizzle missed his ultimate. Was that his fault? No, that was a very nice ultimate dash from the side of Loza. Same on the other side. They tried to get a nice disengage, but on the bottom half of the map, they just couldn't get through the front line of TGR. Both teams are playing really, really well. They're playing to the best of their abilities, and it's just a matter of the fact that if one ability misses, if one slight misplay can just completely snowball the fight in one team's favor. So it's such a close game, and I felt like that dive won't put TGR so far behind. They just have to go back on the defensive. The biggest thing we need to be concerned about is this 5th Drake. 5th Drake is going to pop up before the inhibitors are going to be respawned, and they are either going to have to contest it or they're going to have to give it away. And do you really want to give away 5th Drake when the fights are this close?
Definitely not, especially against Wilson. Obviously, Chaos Storm will be taking away on everyone and proccing that true damage across the entire enemy team. So are they going to be able to get this? Obviously, Wilson wouldn't be the one with the 5th Drake. It would be Gaming Emotion White who would be getting that one. Well, let's see if that is going to be the case. It's spawning in 1 minute and 36, but honestly, with the 2 inhibitors down, they could maybe just look to pressure this bottom lane inhibitor instead of going for the Drake and just try and end earlier.
That is definitely a possibility, but just something I want to bring up is that, for those that might not know, Bard's passive is that he collects chimes throughout the game, and they actually infinitely stack, slowly giving him more bonuses as the game goes on, and he's currently sitting at 91 stacks. So
now.
He actually, I believe that actually empowers his auto attacks, and the AoE from his passive slow is actually massive. The cone is so big that it can actually hit like a whole massive minion wave. So meanwhile, Rengar ult has popped.
This is gonna be on the Thrilling Hunt used to engage the fight once again. 11-2 gets hit by the charm though, and he takes so much damage, but he lives through this one. Enza now trying to do what he can. A beautiful explosive cast. Is this gonna be game? Gaming Emotion doing so much work. The Chaos Storm is onto Jhin, but it's not doing enough damage. Wilson uses that Zhonya's, but he's gonna be dropped. There's the double kill coming through for Loza, and they're looking for more. Swift gonna go down. There's the triple kill. There's the quadra. Can he get the pentakill? He does. No! Jhin, you scumbag, takes the pentakill, but the quadra comes through for Loza, and Gaming Emotion take the game in style. 5-0 ace. Quadra kill coming through for Loza, and that is gonna be game. Ladies and gentlemen, Gaming Emotion White stay in the tournament. Commiserations to TGR, but that is gonna be such a fantastic last game of tonight.
Yeah, that is fantastic, and fortunately we do have a replay of that final team fight. 11-2 gets hit by such a massive amount of damage right at the start of the fight, and that pretty much sums up the fight because that casket knocks him back into the team, which enables Loza to pick up his first kill. Then at this point, with Wilson completely out of position, they are able to pick up the double kill, and with the 2 backline just locked up by another fantastic ult by Ginseng, enables the triple kill. And while we thought he was going to get the penta, he gets denied by scumbag Chin and prevents him from getting that pentakill. So that would have been the first penta of the whole tournament, so it's a real shame that we don't get to see that, but fantastic play from both teams. It was definitely a long game, and I felt like TGR did have the advantage in the early game, and a few mistakes early on allowed GIM to get back into the game, but very well played by